Hey peeps, so I saw a couple of new movies and let's talk about them. So the first one was the third MHA feature called My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission. And it was decent, not as good as Heroes Rising, but it was still enjoyable. The one thing I credit over the recent one is that this one added a little more complexity to the plot. Heroes Rising was simplistic and straightforward, but sometimes it was to a fault. This entry adds a little more weight to the stakes and things feel like they were gradually building up throughout. The characters are pretty consistent and don't really have too much to contribute outside their filled initial roles that you'd expect, but their presence was still favorable overall. The film has definitely shown some production improvement, which can be seen in certain action sequences and animation, and the action scenes especially were as intense and as exciting as I would hope they would be. I really loved the relationship that developed between Deku and the new character Rhodey, who was the highlight of the movie in my opinion. My criticism with this movie lie within a few things. One has to do with just some of the new characters and their quirks not making too much sense. Now I'm not asking for realistic logic in a story where people can create both fire and ice out of their hands, but a little internal logic with how their quirk works within the universe would be a little useful. Now I'm gonna go into minor spoilers here, so if you don't want to know what happens next or you don't want to know anything else about this movie, skip to this part of the video right now. So there's a girl that can manifest a bow and she shoots out powerful projectiles and she has agency over them when she fires them, but there's a point in the film where she runs out of arrows and then she's like screwed, like that's it, she's done. So what's the point of her quirk being able to manifest a bow if she can't even create arrows with it? I mean, it wouldn't have been too implausible because she's pretty much like Momo mixed with Green Arrow, which is cool, but not really a useful quirk at all in the grand scheme of things. And Rhodey's quirk is that he can't tell the truth, and his bird pet pretty much tells the truth that he can't. So is the bird like an extension of his conscience? If it is a quirk, did he manifest the bird as his physical representation of his consciousness by himself? Can he manifest other animals to represent his consciousness, or does it have to be a bird exactly? I mean, I know it's nitpicky, but it was just kind of weird to me. And then we have the villain who might be one of the weakest I've seen in this entire franchise. So basically his plan is to rid the world of quirk users because his past experiences gave him the realization that people with quirks are diseased and need to be wiped off the earth, and he feels like he's the one to do it, kind of like a prophet. So he's kind of like William Stryker from X-Men 2, except it doesn't make sense. If he's so bent on ridding the world of people with quirks and he himself is a quirk user that considers his own quirk a disease, then why is he doing this in the first place? That's counterproductive. How is a quirk user going to rid the world of people with quirks? And he actually has followers with quirk users going along with this. I mean, what happens if he succeeds? Is he going to just kill himself and his colleagues? Because that's the only way his plan makes complete sense. Now, some will argue that Overhaul had the same motivations, but for him the issue was bigger and more complicated. He didn't even care about humanity, and his motives were already acknowledged to be paradoxical, and he was a sociopathic lunatic, which was in line with his character. Overall, I thought this one was fine. It didn't really leave as much of an impression on me as I hoped. I still think it's worth seeing, especially if you're an MHA fan, and hopefully you all enjoy a little more than I did. I still think it's worth your time though, but I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 stars for now. Maybe that'll change, but so far that's what I feel. And the next one is the latest Paranormal Activity film called Next of Kin, and it was garbage. This might be the worst one, and the last one I saw was the fourth one, and I just stopped right there. The only ones I liked were 2 and 3, and by then I had my fill on these movies. Now, I appreciate that this one is trying to be different, but at this point, why is it even called Paranormal Activity? For the most part, there was nothing paranormal about any activity that happened in this movie. And man, this movie was just slow. I mean, it took its time in all the wrong ways. 90 minutes is way too long for this kind of movie, especially since the plot was hilariously predictable. But what about the movie itself? Well, the found footage aspect was the most gimmicky it's ever been. The characters were all dry pieces of protein matter with arms and legs, and the plot just took forever to get going. I fell asleep in the middle of the film, rewinded it, and learned that there was no reason to even do that. So basically, this girl wants to find out things about her origins, which pertain to her mother living in this isolated town in the woods, which is an excuse to spend days there instead of just getting all the information you need in one day. And this movie was not remotely scary at all. This film has the audacity to use movie jump scare cues in a movie that leans its narrative on someone holding a camera in the movie's universe. universe. It was absolutely hilariously manipulative. There are camera tricks used by the characters with the camera that are cheaply reincorporated in the most hilarious ways possible. This film tries to forcefully use found footage to make certain scenes inexplicably cinematic for no reason, which makes me wonder why they bothered even making this a found footage film in the first place. The camera usage becomes ultimately pointless at times because the logistics of the camera placements make no realistic sense in the universe. There's a hilariously bad CGI effect, a pathetic black joke that was just pure cringe. They even seem like they ripped off the ending of Rec 1 and 2 in this movie. Terrible synchronization of in-universe sounds with the film's god-awful score, horror cliches too many to count, terrible acting on all fronts, a cliffhanger ending. Are you kidding me? This movie has endless problems, and I advise you not to waste any of your money that you're already paying stream services with. This movie is already being critically decimated, so please just watch something else. This is probably the worst movie of 2021, and it gets no stars from me. It was that bad. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see y'all later. Peace out and love y'all.